the tension between our natural impulses and the structured demands of law and social order. Life is not hard, rather obeying law is hard suggests an important distinction. Life itself, in its raw, unstructured form, might indeed flow more naturally. We see this in children before they're fully socialized, or in moments when we're alone in nature, acting purely on instinct and immediate needs. There's a certain ease to following our immediate desires, impulses, and natural rhythms without the overlay of complex social rules and legal frameworks. The challenge identify that our minds naturally want to rebel against law speaks to something fundamental about human psychology. Psychologists have long studied what they call psychological reactance, our tendency to resist restrictions on our freedom. When we're told we cannot do something, there's often an immediate, almost automatic desire to do exactly that thing. It's as if our psyche has a built-in resistance to external control, a drive toward autonomy that can put us at odds with legal and social structures. This resistance might be evolutionary in nature. Our ancestors who survived were often those who could think independently, challenge authority when necessary, and adapt to new circumstances rather than blindly following established patterns. In many ways, questioning rules and pushing boundaries has been essential to human progress and survival. The very laws we now follow were often created by people who challenged previous systems of order. But here's where it gets complex. While our minds might naturally resist law, we also seem to have an equally natural tendency toward creating structure and rules. Humans are inherently social creatures, and wherever we gather in groups, we spontaneously develop norms, customs, and eventually formal laws. Even in the absence of external authority, we create our own systems of order. This suggests that while we might resist laws imposed on us, we also recognize their necessity for collective functioning. The difficulty of obeying law might also stem from the fact that legal systems are often imperfect human constructs. They're created by people with limited knowledge, specific cultural contexts, and particular interests. Laws can be outdated, unfair, or simply poorly designed for the complexities of real life. When we encounter a law that seems arbitrary or unjust, our natural sense of fairness rebels against it. Our minds are constantly evaluating whether rules make sense, whether they serve a good purpose, and whether they align with our personal values and understanding of right and wrong. There's also the temporal aspect to consider. Laws often require us to sacrifice immediate gratification for long-term benefits, either for ourselves or for society. Our brains are wired to prioritize immediate rewards over distant ones, a tendency that served our ancestors well in environments where the future was uncertain. But modern legal systems ask us to constantly override these immediate impulses in service of abstract, long-term goals like social stability, environmental protection, or economic fairness. The cognitive load of law compliance is genuinely demanding. We must constantly monitor our behavior, remember complex and ever-changing rules, predict consequences, and make split-second decisions about compliance in ambiguous situations. This mental effort is exhausting in a way that simply following our immediate impulses is not. It requires what psychologists call executive function, the mental processes that include working memory, flexible thinking, and self-control. This insight also touches on the philosophical tension between freedom and order. Thinkers like John Stuart Mill argued for maximum individual liberty constrained only by the harm principle. We should be free to do anything that doesn't harm others, but determining what constitutes harm and how to prevent it while preserving freedom is incredibly complex. Every law represents a collective decision to limit individual freedom in service of some greater good, and reasonable people can disagree about where those lines should be drawn. There's also the question of internalization. Some laws become so deeply embedded in our moral framework that following them feels natural rather than forced. We don't typically struggle with laws against murder or theft because most of us have internalized these prohibitions as moral principles. But other laws, perhaps traffic regulations, tax codes, or licensing requirements, can feel more arbitrary and external, making compliance feel like a constant battle against our natural inclinations. The enforcement aspect adds another layer of complexity. Laws backed by severe consequences can create a psychological state of constant vigilance and anxiety. We're not just managing our natural impulses, we are also calculating risks, watching for enforcement, and dealing with the stress of potential punishment. This transforms law following from a simple behavioral choice into a complex psychological balancing act. If we accept that the difficulty lies not in life itself, but in the overlay of legal structures, it might help us approach law more thoughtfully. Rather than seeing legal compliance as an inevitable burden, we might view it as a collective human project that requires constant refinement and conscious participation. The most sustainable legal systems might be those that work with human nature rather than against it, that minimize the psychological friction you've identified. This could mean designing laws that align with our natural sense of fairness, that are simple enough to follow without constant mental effort, and that clearly connect individual compliance to collective benefits. This observation ultimately highlights the ongoing human challenge of balancing individual autonomy with collective coordination. It's a tension that will likely persist as long as humans live in societies, but recognizing it clearly, as you've done, is the first step toward managing it more skillfully. Do not forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to be updated for more inspiring content. You can also leave a comment and share the video so that we could reach and inspire more people. Thank you, and to God be all the glory.